Whew. I thought I was done making videos for today, but I saw something. I was just scrolling on my phone and I saw something and I was watching it. Like I watched like the first 10 seconds and I was like, I mean, if I'm gonna be a reaction channel, why not just react to things that interest me? You know what I'm saying? And potentially interest you as well. I'm learning while you're learning, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, this video, I don't know. It's hella weird. I don't know. It's the night. It's nighttime. It's like what time is it now? Times 9:53, damn near 10, and I'm making this. That's how you know I'm really grinding. Anyways, let's get into the video. It's about the Russian sleep experiment. Apparently, it's like some messed up thing that the Soviet Union did to people. I don't know. Let's get into it.
A Russian researcher enters a room where he expects to see his human test subjects alive and well. Instead, he witnesses absolute pandemonium. He hears screams of the damned, and in front of him is a body that's been torn apart and eviscerated. It looks as though the Antichrist himself has been in the room. Even the survivors have had chunks of flesh ripped from their arms and legs, their ends of their fingers shown exposed bone. Their faces are sheared of skin. What is this inferno of madness, thinks the researcher. This wasn't exactly how the experiment was supposed to turn out, he thinks. Okay, the food wasn't great. We might have made those beds a bit more comfortable, but tearing each other to shreds over a bit of lost sleep? Come on, guys. That's not very comrade of you. That nightmare scenario is straight out of the famous Russian sleep experiment, if you believe it really happened. Let's start from the beginning of the story, and then
people don't even know if it
what
really
our
happened?
team of world-class sleuths dug up on the truth behind this horrific experiment. So, it's the late 1940s, and Soviet-era researchers have created a stimulant that they believe can keep a person awake for a long time, which is handy when you're fighting a war. In the Second World War, the Germans had their version of such a stimulant, which was a formidable methamphetamine called Pervitin. The Americans and the British would dose their troops with the amphetamine Benzedrine, which was similar to your garden variety speed. The Soviets are looking to up the ante and use their own which was similar to your garden variety speed. The Soviets are looking to up the ante and use their own version of a drug, which won't lead to a total wipeout after a 3-day-long binge. They've made something special, but they need to test it on humans first. It's not hard to find test subjects since prisoners of war were aplenty in the 1940s. And where prisoners were concerned, bypassing ethical considerations wasn't such a big deal. They set up a test area where 5 subjects will stay. It's a sealed environment into which the researchers can release the stimulant in gas form and check if the levels of oxygen are okay. The subjects have been given dried food, each a bed with no bedding, running water, and a toilet. The researchers listen to the subjects through a microphone, and there are cameras through which they can monitor the subjects. The only portholes to the outside are 5-inch thick glass windows, which are barely good enough to see a shadow from. The scene is set, and the 5 men seem in good spirits for the first 3 days. The gas is doing its job, and the researchers are pleased about that. One researcher tells another, "Nazi meth, what a joke. Just wait until the world sees what we've cooked up. Comrade Stalin will be most pleased." The subjects have agreed to try and stay awake for 30 days, and have been falsely informed that if they can make the 30 days, they'll get their freedom. Such a deal seems fair to them. Things turn slightly dark around the 4-day mark, when the subjects start discussing war and the horrors they've seen. They speak of traumas, continual nightmares, other ghastly things they witnessed. Day 5, and things get worse. The men start showing signs of psychosis, talking to themselves and things that are not there. They grow paranoid of each other and start whispering into those microphones, telling stories about the other subjects. The researchers, of course, know all about sleep deprivation. After 5 days, the mind can turn on a person. Hallucinations can seem real and horrifying. But they wondered, was it the loss of sleep or the gas itself?
I'm sorry if I'm just sitting here and I'm not really reacting. I'm just watching because
when one guy just started screaming, howling like a banshee and running up and down the room.
This is like a real thing that happened.
He seemed to tear his vocal cords because after a few hours he squeaked like a children's toy. A few more days passed and his vocal cords because after a few hours
he tore his vocal cords
and running up and down the room. He screamed so much he seemed to tear his vocal cords because after a few hours he squeaked like a children's toy. A few more days passed and there was an eerie silence. The men could not be seen from the cameras. They were alive for sure since the oxygen levels indicated 5 breathing men, but where were they? The researchers hadn't wanted to interrupt the study, but they felt that they had no choice, and so said into an intercom, "We're opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you immediate freedom." They heard one voice respond. It said, "We no longer
Being
want
a
to be
soldier
free."
in this
What
time,
was
like
this? Had they
I
been getting
have
ripped on
different
the
respect for
gas and
people
were
like
now
this, like
addicted?
that.
The researchers said there's nothing we can do but open. Had they been heard one voice on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you immediate freedom. They heard one voice respond. It said, "We no longer want to be freed." What was
Dog.
this? Had they been getting ripped on that gas and were now addicted? The researchers said there's nothing we can do but open the door. They opened the vents and let fresh air displace the residual stimulant. What the researchers heard next was the men screaming again, pleading for more of that damn fine gas. WTF,
Wait, they got
thought
it.
one of the Russians. Those guys are
How did
seriously
you get
hooked.
addicted
They
to
opened
that?
the doors on day 15, and to their surprise,
I mean,
saw
you
one
could really
man
get it.
was dead. You know what the scene
Really
looked like
get
because we
addicted to
laid that
anything.
out for you in the intro, but we didn't tell you what happened shortly after the gruesome discovery of the half-eaten man and the wounded
What the
survivors.
hell?
On closer inspection, the researchers saw that the wounds on the men were very bad. They looked as if they might have been self-inflicted too. They had torn the skin and muscles from their own chests, which revealed the horrific
hell?
sight of the men's lungs. Each man, it had seemed, had performed this macabre surgery on himself. Blood vessels that were still working had been removed. Other internal organs were seen laid out on the floor like a piece of
Bro.
art, and the men were going to eat those morsels. They were dying
Dog,
on their own bodies.
these are
and
real-life
doing it with
zombies.
enthusiasm. The researchers
I
called
guess
for
zombies
backup,
don't
not
sleep
daring
either.
to go near those poor wretches. They closed the door to
They literally
howls of the
made
men
real-life
pleading for the
zombies.
gas to come back. When soldiers arrived to help remove the subjects, the extrication process wasn't exactly fun. One of the subjects ripped a man's throat right out, while another soldier had his balls removed. 5 soldiers lost their
Dog.
lives in total, but
Me
some of the victims
personally, I
took
would
their
not
own
go out
lives
like
after
that.
the event. Once the subjects were out, the doctors injected enough morphine into them to sedate a Canadian moose, but the men still fought like wild beasts. One subject bled out and his heart stopped beating, but he still carried on screaming, "Give me gas! I need gas!" A doctor had some bones broken during that grim spectacle. The 3
Bro, he
others
got his
were
bro,
eventually
someone got his
sedated and
balls
strapped
to
and moved to a secure
pause.
facility. The researchers talked to each other, saying things like, "That wasn't meant to happen, was it?" They hated to admit it, but maybe the Nazis, the Brits, and the Americans had done the right thing in just plying their troops with top-notch crank. The surgeons got to work on putting the missing organs and bits of viscera back into one man, but this guy almost broke through his restraints. When the docs finally got the anesthetic into him, the man's heart stopped and he died right on the spot. The autopsy showed he had broken 9 bones and his muscles were torn all over his body. When they tried to fix up the next man, they decided 2 deaths were enough and didn't use an anesthetic. They patched him up nice, sewing his ruptured organs and laying skin grafts on him. The head surgeon said this man should not be alive after what he's gone through, but he admired his own work. A nurse commented that during the surgery, the beast had been smiling at her. She did wonder how male carnal instincts can remain functioning during the worst
Hey,
times.
yo.
Maybe with death comes the need to create something new, she philosophized, but quickly shook herself out of her reverie. The man suddenly started making a wheezing sound as if he
Dog
wanted to
was about
say something. The nurse, quick
Dog
to
was
catch
about to
on,
die.
handed him a pen and a pad below it. The man wrote, "Keep cutting." Wow, she thought, what a maniac. She was glad she'd not reciprocated his flirty smile. As for the other maniac, he laughed like a hyena during his bodily reconstruction. He said he wanted that gas, the good stuff, and when asked why, he said he just needed it to stay awake. The surgeon mused, if these guys weren't so hell-bent on eating themselves, they'd make excellent night shift custodians. Cleaners, perhaps, or maybe security. But he
I
knew
actually
all
had a
too
job
well
where
that they couldn't be
I worked
trusted to
night
wash
shift for
their
like 3
hands.
days.
Then a former KGB
it's like you're a
agent had
zombie,
an excellent
literally.
idea, something that had
Like a
amazingly escaped
vampire.
everyone else's thoughts. Why not put these poor suckers
Working
back
at
on
night,
that
sleeping
gas?
in the morning.
He said it seems the problems all start when they all go into withdrawal. Hi, they're okay, if not a bit hyper and paranoid. We can work with that. Once back on the gas, they were fine and dandy, but then something strange happened. The EEG
They
monitor showed
continue the
crazy
experiments.
activity,
These niggas
but
do
then
not
it
have
just
hearts.
died down. One man flatlined. Finally, he just died. His last boost of that junk had done him in, or at least it seemed so. The last guy ended up back in the study room with the other guy seemingly dead on the bed, but 3 researchers were in there too. Suddenly, one of the researchers shot the commander and then shot the subject. He then shouted
What?
out loud, "I won't be locked in here with these things, not with you. What are you? I must know." The subject that was shot, but evidently was not dead, replied, "Have you forgotten so easily? We are you.
What?
We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to
What
be
the
free
hell?
at every moment in your deepest animal mind.
Yo, is this
We
shit
are what
real,
you
or-
hide from in your beds every
Is there-
night.
there has to
We
be a
are what
movie
you
about
sedate
this.
into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." That was almost the end, but for good measure, the researcher put a bullet into the man's chest, which might have breached the Hippocratic Oath somewhat, but hey, harsh times call for harsh measures. The end. So, a lot of people seem to think this all actually happened. Now, without much investigation, one can easily tell by reading this catastrophic flash fiction that it's written by someone whose grammatical skills need improving. Not only that, though, the story simply doesn't make sense at times. Quite a few times,
Exactly.
someone dies and then just comes back to life, and we don't think it's on purpose by the storyteller. He just forgets what he said or her. On another part, the writer says that the oxygen levels indicated the men were alive, and the researchers knew that, and then in the next part he said the researchers were not sure if they'd all died. But there's more than bad writing that gives this away. Where do we start? Well,
So it's not
we
real.
might not need to tell you that you cannot rip out vital organs and lay them on the floor like a bunch of textbooks. That's
And
pure
you can't
fiction. Those men
put it
would have
back.
died from blood loss or shock. Remember that they were discovered like this and left for some time before the soldiers
I mean,
came.
if they're on
Okay, you
whatever
say,
that
but
shit
that was
was,
the gas working. This
maybe.
was a secret experiment that went wrong. High on that wicked drug, maybe men could routinely come back from the dead and rip out
Exactly.
their own organs and even do a bit of flirting when the mood took them. How do we know that it isn't true? Well, there is the matter of recorded history and plausible science. No gas has ever been discovered that can keep a person awake for 15 days. Never mind
So
turn
this shit
that
is all
person
cap.
into a self-loathing zombie. There
It's
is
cap.
no history of the
not even
experiment
real.
anywhere but on a website that's known for its scary, fictional, I'll say it again, fictional
I was
tales.
here thinking
It would
this
be
is real.
astounding if one author alone, writing badly from his or her bedroom, had access to more secret information than the CIA and the British Secret Services. As we said in the story, and we embellished this part ourselves, many soldiers on all sides of the war broke so bad that they could stay awake longer. The officers were handing out that stuff like candy, but not even the most dedicated ice fiend could stay awake for 15 days. And those badly buzzed soldiers would have likely only done 24 to possibly 36 hours awake. The Pentagon has even done studies on this, and even if men are forced to stay awake for more than 48 hours, they will become pretty slow and pretty much useless as soldiers. They'll make tons of mistakes, which is not ideal
definitely
in
turn
war
to zombies.
when you have to be constantly alert. Sure, the speed helped the Germans with their blitzkrieg attacks, but the drugs had to be taken with some precautions. With this in mind, the Russians would not have even tried this experiment. There is something called Morphin syndrome that can cause severe delirium and very bad insomnia, and sufferers can go into a dreamlike state. We say dreamlike because
There's been times
even
where I
if they
don't, like,
sleep, they will
I don't know
have
why.
micro
I just
sleeps.
can't
Plus,
sleep.
nobody
I don't have
with this
insomnia,
disease
though.
has ever started
wonder
eating
how
themselves.
insomnia would be.
Sure, perhaps a noxious
That
agent
has
sprayed
to be
into a room
pretty
full of
bad.
guys can kill someone, but it's very unlikely it could turn them into gas-addicted zombies. There's nothing in scientific
That sounds
literature
like a
that supports
movie.
anything in this
That's
experiment.
what I'm saying.
There's another thing that can cause massive sleep loss, and that's called fatal familial insomnia. But that's passed down through genes and isn't caused by environmental agents. And again, it doesn't and it will never make someone just want to rip out their own
Dude just
organs
ate
and eat
his
them.
liver.
There's just nothing that exists in this world that aligns with the story, and if it did, we would expect it to have appeared in medical journals before it became an internet meme. Then again, many of you have been asking in the comments how we managed to put out so many episodes per day. Maybe the entire staff of the infographic show are crank-addicted zombies with an undying lust for human flesh after all. Of course, that's preposterous.
I mean,
But
what's he
isn't
chatting
that
about
exactly
now?
what a team of crank-addicted zombies with an undying lust for human flesh
now
would
he's just
want you to
chatting.
think?
Now he's just talking. But damn. So I got fooled. I thought it was real, but then as it went by, I'm like, yo, this cannot be real. This is like a movie. And then it just said it wasn't real. Or as far as they know, it does not sound real. Dudes ripping out their organs, eating it. I mean, if potentially they were able to make a drug that could do that, I don't know. If they were able to do that, they probably would have made worse stuff and continue. They probably would have used the gas on their enemies if they created something that like that. But hey, that's the thing with history. You never know what's real or what's fake, and the winner's always right. The victor is always right. The right history. So you only hear one side of the story. But that's not in this case though. This case is just blatant cap. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Comment what you think about this. If you think it's real or it's fake. Um, I don't know. And then I'm gonna see y'all in another video.